This is my first video update coming to you from Athens, Greece on this Thursday morning. Let's talk about some news. And let me talk about a quick update with the video that I made yesterday afternoon, my second video update. And this has to do with my Clown World segment. And I talked about an article, allegedly this is an article from The Atlantic with the title, Russians have infiltrated the internet, I believe was the title. And the byline was something like intel agencies reveal that Russians are on the internet or using the internet or something like that. I forgot the exact byline. But after I published that video, I decided to, it kind of hit me that, you know what, Alex, maybe you were playing it a little fast and loose there with that Clown World. Yeah, the screenshot was all over Telegram and Twitter, all over the internet, really, the screenshot for that article. But I forgot to actually look for the original link to that article. So I went back to Twitter, I went to Telegram, and I couldn't find the original link to that Atlantic post. And then I did a search for it. I went on to the archive and the Internet Archive, and I couldn't find the article there either. So I would say that screenshot, that article is probably fake. It's probably a parody or something, or a joke or something like that. And I'm not 100%. I would say 90% that screenshot from The Atlantic is not real. It was photoshopped. It was made up. I'll leave a 10% saying that maybe it is real, and saying maybe The Atlantic, when they published it, they decided to scrape it right away to get rid of it. But I couldn't find it on search. I couldn't find it on archives. I couldn't find it, the original link. So I think that that Clown World may have not been a correct Clown World. I think that article is not accurate. I'm not 100% on this, because you could have had some sort of scraping of this post, but I doubt it. So I would say that that article is, though the Atlantic is absolutely, I wouldn't put it past the Atlantic to create an article like that. I would say that it's just a parody type of a screenshot from the Atlantic and that Clown World. Anyway, that's the update with my video update from yesterday. Let's talk about what's going on today in the news. And since we're on the topic of the internet, let's talk about what Rumble did yesterday. And this is a fantastic story, and this is confirmed. I'm going to put a screenshot right now on the video on the screen. And this is a statement that Rumble issued to its users in France. So if you're trying to access Rumble in France and you're not using a VPN, you're going to probably see this notice. And it says, notice to users in France. Because of the French government's demands to remove creators from our platform, Rumble is currently unavailable in France. We are challenging these government demands and hope to restore access soon. So what happened here? The French government, they demanded that Rumble remove Russian media sites from the platform, Russian media video like RT and Sputnik and stuff like that. And Rumble, much to their credit, the CEO in Rumble said no. As a matter of fact, instead of us removing content, in this case Russian, what France is calling Russian propaganda or Kremlin propaganda, we're going to cancel France. In other words, instead of you trying to cancel our content creators, we're just going to cancel the entire country. And that's what Rumble did. Good on Rumble. The CEO came out with a statement. Let me read you what he said and what's going on here. So Rumble, founded in 2013 as a free speech alternative to YouTube, where conservatives often find themselves censored, said it would rather not operate in France than submit to the administration of French President Emmanuel Macron's demands and censor pro-Russian content from sites including RT France and Sputnik. Rumble CEO Christoforou said the company will challenge the decision in court. Quote, the French government has demanded that Rumble block Russian news sources, Pavlovsky said on Wednesday. Like Elon Musk, I won't remove our goalposts for any foreign government. Rumble will turn off France entirely. France isn't material to us, and we will challenge the legality of this demand. Good on you, Chris Pavlovsky. Good on you, Rumble. Way to go. Absolutely. I'm speechless, and I'm pleasantly surprised. Good move there. So if you're trying to access Rumble, we are on Rumble. The Duran is on Rumble. My channel's on Rumble. Alexandra's channel is on Rumble. If you're trying to access Rumble in France, you will have to do it via a VPN. And I think this is a fantastic move from Rumble. And I like how he said goalpost, moving the goalpost, because this is the Rumble CEO knowing that if he complies and removes what Macron is calling Russian propaganda today, tomorrow it's going to be something else, and then the next week it's going to be something else, right? So if you have to take a stand now, and that's what Rumble is doing. They're saying, no, we're not going to do this. We don't care if it's Kremlin propaganda or Greek propaganda or UK propaganda, whatever, right? We're not going to remove this content because it's not violating our terms. And if we were to comply and remove this content today, well, then the next week you're going to ask us to censor some more, and it's a slippery slope. Where does it end? So this is a very, very smart decision from the Rumble CEO, and a very ethical decision from the Rumble CEO. He says that his platform is free speech. In this very instance, he's backing it up with his actions. And isn't it interesting how it's always the collective West, it seems, that wants to silence speech? It's the very people that claim to be all about human rights and free speech are the very people that want to censor and silence. If your narrative, if your news is factual and you're telling the truth, Macron, French mainstream media, collective West mainstream media, if you're on the right side of history, why are you so afraid to have RT or Sputnik or any other broadcasters, media channels appear on these platforms, post videos on these platforms? What are you afraid of? If you're saying the truth and you're on the right side of history, then I would imagine that you would want RT to post videos on Rumble, and you would want people to watch those RT videos, because sooner or later, people are going to realize that what RT is reporting is fake. I realized with the Atlantic article that I was talking about in my clown world, after further reflection and a little bit of research, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, Alex? That Atlantic article may have been some sort of Photoshop or some sort of parody or fake. And I bought into it for 24 hours. But then I realized, you know what? It's probably, there's something suspicious about it. So I'm glad that stuff like that is out there, and that, you know, people can decide to research stuff and to find out if this is true or not true. And I would imagine if you're speaking the truth, if you're the European Union and if you're Macron and you're speaking the truth with regards to Russia and this conflict in Ukraine, what does it bother you if RT is broadcasting? Let them broadcast their propaganda. I imagine the French population, the French public, is smart enough to realize that it's just that, propaganda, and they're going to come to the conclusion that Macron is correct and RT and Russia is wrong, right? If you're speaking the truth. But obviously, you're worried, you're afraid that maybe the French public is going to realize that what RT is reporting is maybe it's not so much propaganda. Maybe they're not lying. Maybe they are reporting a different narrative that makes sense. That's what Macron is afraid of, and that's why his government has taken the route of censorship. The EU did this from day one of the conflict, the special military operation. What's the first thing the European Union did? right when the conflict started, February 24th. A week after the conflict started, Ursula van der Crazy, the pirate of Brussels, she got in front of the podium onto the stage, and what did she say? She said that the European Union has decided that all flights from Russia will not be allowed into the European Union. Onto EU territory, she said, we're canceling all flights. We're closing our airspace to Russian planes on EU territory, and we're going to censor all broadcasts from Russian media, Russian state media on EU territory. RT, Sputnik, TASS, whatever. Those are the first two things she did. Why did she do that? Russia didn't do that. Russia didn't cancel media and flights and tourism and airspace to the EU. They did afterwards. They reciprocated, they retaliated, and whatever the EU did, they did. But it was the EU that fired the first shots. And why did they do that? Why was the first thing that the European Union, the collective West, did? The first thing they did was to prevent people from interacting, Russians and Europeans from talking, meeting each other, interacting with each other. That's what you do when you close off tourism and close off the airspace. And then the second thing that she did is she closed off the media. So she prevented Europeans from getting an alternative narrative, an alternative viewpoint as to what's going on in Ukraine. First two actions that she took. The collective West knows that if they were to allow Russians to freely travel to Europe, then maybe, just maybe, I'd be sitting here in Greece, and maybe I would meet someone from Russia, and we'd get to talking, and that person from Russia would say, yeah, you know, you're giving me this side of the story, but here's how we see things. 8 years of the Minsk Accords, constant shelling of Donbass, 15,000 people killed, our government consistently trying to find a solution to this problem, begging the collective West, pleading with the collective West, just have Ukraine say that they're going to remain neutral. Come on, guys, just follow the Minsk Accords. France, Germany, just enforce the Minsk Accords so we don't have any type of conflict or trouble break out. Maybe that's the alternative narrative that you'd hear from the Russians. Elensky was planning to attack us. He constantly shelled Donbass. We lost thousands and thousands of innocent lives. They're constantly attacking us. They're constantly trying to surround us. You know, nukes right on our borders. Maybe you'd hear some alternative viewpoints. That's what they're afraid of. That's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of dialogue. They're afraid of conversation. They're afraid of discussion. They're afraid of transparency and information and knowledge. And they don't believe that people are adult enough to figure it out for themselves. If they have all the facts there, they believe that people aren't smart, or maybe they're worried that people are smart enough if they have all the facts to come to the right conclusion. Maybe that's what worries them even more. They understand that people are smart enough, and that if they had all the facts in front of them, and they understood both sides, all the opinions, if they had it presented to them, then they're afraid that people might actually come to the conclusion that, you know what, collective West, you guys should have just enforced the Minsk Accords. Why didn't you do that? If you had just enforced the Minsk Accords, Macron and Merkel, I'm going back to Angela Merkel, if you had just enforced the Minsk Accords or told Ukraine to enforce it, then Ukraine would have been a whole country without Crimea. It would have relinquished Crimea, but it would have had Lugansk and Donetsk. And it would have been a type of a federal republic, kind of like the United States, where Donetsk and Lugansk had a little bit more autonomy. They kind of had like state rights, but they answered to a federal government. And you would have had to say that you're going to remain neutral. You're not going to enter NATO. So simple. So simple. Anyway, I thought I would say that. And actually, while I'm on the subject, yesterday on my morning video, I talked about Serbia and how Germany was demanding that Serbia has to choose between Russia and the European Union. You have to choose. It's either us or them. You can't be friends with both. That was what German officials said, and we don't have a name. They won't tell us who the German official was. These are anonymous German officials. But still, how dare you go to a country, Germany, the European Union, and demand of them, dictate to them that you have to choose who you're going to have diplomatic relations with, who you're going to have dialogue with, who you're going to trade with. How come you can't trade with both? How come you can't have friendly relations with both the European Union and Russia? Why? What is so wrong with that? Why is it always us or them, unless you're purposely trying to divide? You're purposely trying to divide people and societies and countries. And it's always the collective West that makes these demands. They're the ones that are always saying it's either us or them. What did George Bush say? You're either with us or you're against us, right before he invaded Iraq or after he invaded Iraq, right? That's what he said. You're either with us or you're against us. Why is it always them that are the collective West that's always demanding this of world leaders and countries and societies? They do the same to India. No, India, you have to be with us or you're with Russia. Which one? Or to Turkey, you're either with us or you're with Russia. You can't be friends with both. You can't be neutral. Because it's our values, right? That's what Vander Crazy always says. It's all about our values. You either have our values or you don't have our values. Whatever the hell those values are, because they never really define what those values are. Nor do they, if I was to assume what those values are, human rights, freedom, freedom of speech, freedom to travel, all of these things, well, they don't really follow their own values, do they? So they were demanding this of Serbia. I remember in 2014, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I'll get back to the news in a couple of minutes. I remember in 2014 during the Maidan, the coup d'etat that was sponsored by President Obama, Vice President Biden, and his many trips to Ukraine and Newland and the European Union and all of these guys, John McCain and what's his name, Sikorsky, all of these guys that were sponsoring this coup d'etat. I remember at the time, Yanukovych, then president of Ukraine, he was actually saying, yes, we can apply to enter the European Union. I'm for that, but I would also apply to be part of the Russian-led Eurasian Union, which was this kind of group of former Soviet republics and Eurasian countries that were trying to set up this trading union at the time. I think that's now kind of morphed into the BRICS and the SCO and the CIS summits and all of these things. But at the time, it was called the Eurasian Union of countries or something like that. And I remember Yanukovych was like, can't we do both? Can't we be part of the European Union or apply to be part of the European Union and then be part of the Eurasian group of countries? And Putin actually said, yes, absolutely, you can apply to be part of the EU and you can be part of the Eurasian Union. The one doesn't cancel out the other. And Putin actually said it benefits you to be part of the Eurasian group of countries because the entire economy of Ukraine it's a Soviet economy, and it was geared towards Russia and towards trading with Russia. The industry was geared towards Russia. The trade, the geography. I mean, just look where they are. Everything in Ukraine at the time was oriented, because it was part of the Soviet Union, was oriented towards Eurasia and towards Russia. And so Putin made the astute observation that, yes, he actually said you can apply to be part of the European Union, and it benefits Ukraine to be part of Eurasia because your entire economy is oriented towards us. So you'll double benefit, he told Ukraine. You'll actually act as a bridge between Europe and Eurasia. And what did the EU say? I think it was Borrell at the time. I think he was the head honcho of the European Union. I might be wrong about that. But what did the EU Commission say? No. You're either part of the EU or you're not. You're either with us or you're against us. That's exactly what the EU said. They told Ukraine, you have to choose. Anyway, I went off on a tangent there. Good on Rumble. Elon Musk, by the way, he kind of did the same thing that Rumble did, kind of. And you remember this United 24 website that I talked about in previous videos, which was, it's this website that allegedly the Elensky regime set up. Supposedly they're the ones that put this thing together. I think it's other forces at work. Anyway, they created this United 24, and this is like a crowdfunding platform where people can donate crypto or cash. And then Ukraine uses that crypto and cash to buy drones or clothing for the soldiers or food for the soldiers and stuff like that. And they've raised $100 million in crypto, and they have Luke Skywalker, aka Mark Hamill. He's the ambassador of drones for United 24, and he's raised millions of dollars for this platform, and supposedly those millions of dollars are going to buy drones for the Ukraine military. Anyway, this platform, which I doubt the money is going to be used to buy drones and to buy clothing for the soldiers, and I doubt we're ever going to see that 100 million in crypto ever again. And if you think that money is going to go to buy clothing for soldiers and food and drones, well, then I've got a Greek tree to sell you, if you believe that. But Elon Musk, Twitter has said that this United 24 this United 24 site, this media, which has a profile on Twitter, is actually state media. He labeled it as state media, Ukraine state media. Fresh off its acquisition by billionaire Elon Musk, Twitter has begun labeling tweets from Ukrainian state-backed media in the same way it does with a number of Russian outlets. The labels appeared on accounts like United24.media, a platform set up by Ukrainian President Elensky starting on Tuesday. So just like they label RT state media, Musk labeled United 24 state media. And he's 100% right. I have no problem with labeling profiles on social media as state media. I have no problem with it, as long as it's done equally, evenly. As long as it's on a level playing field, which means if you're going to label RT state media, then you have to label United 24 state media, because it is. And you have to label BBC state media, and you have to label CBC state media, and CNN, you have to label it Clinton media, or whatever, whoever sponsors CNN, 3-letter agencies media. But in all seriousness, if you're going to have RT being labeled as state media, then yeah, absolutely, the BBC or France 24 or Deutsche Welle should have the same label underneath their profile. It's fair. It's the correct thing to do. And there's nothing wrong with being state media. I don't understand this stigma that the collective West has placed on state media. They make it seem like, oh my God, it's state media. Okay, it's state media. Just because it's state media, it doesn't mean that what the BBC reports is true or not true. Maybe some stuff they report is true. Maybe some stuff they report is not true. No problem. Once again, we're all adults. We can listen to the BBC and then listen to RT and decide which one is true. We can make a decision. We're all grown-ups. We can think for ourselves. But there's nothing evil about state media. It's just it is what it is. It's a media. It's media that is funded by the state. And they're going to have a tilt, a slant, which is favorable for the country that they're broadcasting from. That's common sense. Just because they're broadcasting from Russia, it doesn't mean the grass is not green or the sky is not blue. I mean, it's this whole state media thing, that this whole stigma that the collective West has concocted with regards to state media. They did it because they wanted to stigmatize Russia. That's why they created the state media thing and the state media labels, because they're script writers, they're marketeers sitting in New York and sitting in LA. And in the White House, they said, okay, well, let's just create this state media thing, and then we'll brand Russia and Iran and China. We'll call them state media, and we'll make this as some evil word, evil label, and that'll get people to question their news. Dude, the BBC is state media. Canadian broadcasting, state media. Deutsche Welle, state media. Iran has state media. China has state media. It's not a real big deal. Anyway, good on Elon Musk for that. I also read that Elon Musk is going to be charging $8 a month for blue check marks, which I think is great. So if you want a blue check mark, just pay $8 a month. I think that's fantastic. Absolutely. And what else did he say he's going to do? Oh, he said he's going to fire. Rumors are that he's going to do a mass firing on Friday. Like half of Twitter is going to be let go or something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I read. But the $8 a month is good. Start moving away from the advertising model. That's what Twitter has to do. Make it subscription, start selling services, start selling products, start selling different services, and try to move away from being ad sponsored. That's how Twitter is going to be fair in the future. So that is Elon Musk. Now, before I get to a kind of clown world, on the grain deal, Russia re-entering the grain deal, just a clarification. Sometimes I mix things up when I talk about Russia's participation in the grain deal. The Russians, what they did, and actually I said this in a video a couple of days ago, I clarified this, and Putin clarified this. Russia did not withdraw from the grain deal. It suspended its participation in the grain deal. And in a video I did from Cyprus, I noted as much. But I think yesterday in my second video update, I said Russia withdrew from the grain deal or something like that and now has re-entered it. What really happened is the reality of Russia's participation in the grain deal is this. They suspended their participation in the grain deal. They did not withdraw. They suspended it. And they have said now that they will withdraw if Ukraine does not abide by their written guarantees. They've re-entered now the grain deal from their suspension. They've now re-entered. And now they've said that if Ukraine goes back on their written guarantees, this is according to Putin, then next time around they will absolutely withdraw their participation in the grain deal. So I just wanted to clarify that. And let me just see if I have a quote from Putin, because he also clarified this. President Putin says Russia reserves the right to withdraw from the Turkish and UN-mediated grain deal if Ukraine violates its written security guarantees to not use the humanitarian corridor for military purposes. Everyone knows that Ukraine used the humanitarian corridor to attempt an attack on the Black Sea Fleet. The president said, stressing that this was the reason Russia suspended the participation in the grain deal and demanded written guarantees that such incidents will not occur in the future. So I just wanted to clarify that. And this kind of goes along with my analysis yesterday on the grain deal. Russia, by re-entering the grain deal, by unsuspending their participation in the grain deal, I think that's the right way to phrase it. They've got these written guarantees from Ukraine, and that's it. They have Ukraine on paper now. They've guaranteed not only to Russia, but to Turkey, to the UN, to the entire world that they're not going to try to use these corridors for some sort of a terrorist attack. And so if they renege on this, well, then Russia can take this paper and say, look, just like the Minsk Accords, just like they reneged on the Minsk Accords, they've now reneged on these guarantees as well. So you can't trust Elensky. Their word is meaningless, and that's what Russia has now. They have, Ukraine on record signed a signed guarantee from them. So they've got them, and I'm positive that Ukraine is going to renege on this guarantee. I'm positive that they're going to try and attack using these corridors. They're going to do it. It's just for the collective West, for these crazies, it's too irresistible to not use these humanitarian corridors to try and strike at Russia and get some sort of media PR victory by saying, look, we took out the ship, whatever. We took out this ship, or we took out this bridge. It's just too irresistible for them. So they're going to do it. That's my thinking on it. I would give it 90%, 80, 90% that Ukraine is going to go back on their written guarantees. But Putin said, we have you now. Now we have you. And next time, there's no going back. Next time, we're not going to unsuspend this deal. So that was Putin with regards to the grain deal. And I think I can get to my clown world. And now, one real interesting story is this. Biden gave his speech yesterday, right before the elections. He didn't really talk about the issues at all. He didn't talk about the economy, inflation, the border, none of this stuff. He just basically said that if you don't vote Democrat, or if you disagree with the elections, well, then you're going to prison. I mean, to summarize it, you're a MAGA election denier, another word that they've made up, election denier. You're a MAGA election denier, and you're in big trouble, where the FBI is going to be knocking on your door, something like that. That was pretty much what his speech was about. Vote the right way or else, and don't question the results of the vote. That was Biden's speech yesterday, a very divisive speech. He didn't talk about any of the issues that matter most to the American people. He didn't talk about that at all. So we have that. We have this Liz Truss, it's done or everything is done text, which Russia is jumping on. Even Patrushev, who I believe he's the secretary of the Security Council, he said that Truss's message is everything is done, confirms the participation of the British Navy in the attacks. I just find it interesting that Russia they're really grabbing onto this text message, which still has not been confirmed. This still hasn't been confirmed. I haven't seen the evidence that Truss actually sent this message. What we have is leaks and intelligence leak in the UK. That we have. A breach, an intelligence breach has happened in the UK. That we know. That has been confirmed. But we haven't had these texts or anything like these texts actually leaked out into the public domain. So I just want to clarify that even the Russians are grasping onto this, and a lot of people are grasping onto this to say, you see, this is a smoking gun. Technically, it isn't yet. Maybe Liz Truss did send this text to Blinken. Maybe the Russians have the receipts. Maybe they have the evidence, and they're just waiting for the right time to release it. But it's interesting that someone as powerful and as high up as Patrushev would make this statement. That would lead me to believe that he probably has the texts, and they just don't want to release this. They're just kind of holding these cards, because timing is everything. You want to release this, or you want to hold this out as leverage over the collective West when the time is right, But you're kind of saying, we got this. We got all of your communication, and that's evidence that the British Navy was involved. But I haven't seen evidence of these Liz Truss texts, these leaks. So I just want to say that. Anyway, I just find it interesting that high-level officials in the Kremlin are saying this, and they're using these texts to make the case that Britain was involved in these attacks in Sevastopol. And finally, very, very quickly, before I do a clown world, we have this UN Security Council meeting. The Russians, they wanted an investigation into U.S. I have to be careful in the words that I use for YouTube. U.S. research facilities in Ukraine. If you go by what Victoria Nuland said in her testimony to Congress, they wanted the UN to research the research facilities in Ukraine, and the Security Council, they turned it down. Russia and China said, yes, we have to research what's going on. The United States, the UK, I believe France as well, they said no. And actually, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations said that the reason we voted no is because Russia just didn't provide any real evidence as to these facilities in Ukraine, for which I say, you mean like when Colin Powell showed the little anthrax before the U.S. invaded Iraq? Is that the type of evidence that the U.S. is looking for? Anyway, do I have time for a clown world? Let's do a super quick clown world. And it's kind of a clown world. Elensky giving an interview on Czech TV. He spoke in English and he talked about a nuclear war. He said, most likely we're not going to have a nuclear war, but he said that people should not be afraid of a nuclear war. He said something like that. I'm not even going to pull up the quote. I'll put the quote on the screen right now as to what Elensky said. But I just want to say that this guy Elensky, this guy's a crazy. Maybe he's doing too much, too much of that funny business. But the real reason that he keeps on talking about nuclear war, now he's trying to say, don't worry if there is some sort of nuclear incident. The reason he's saying that is twofold, I believe, outside of the of that. The one reason is that he probably feels that if he talks about this enough, or he's probably been ordered to talk about this all the time, because this will convince people in the collective West to be okay with more weapons and more money being sent to Ukraine. In other words, stoke up enough fear that people sitting in Greece, for example, will say, okay, give him another 10 billion. Give them some more weapons, because God, the last thing we want is some sort of nuclear crisis in Ukraine. So we gotta help Zelensky out. So that's reason number one. And the second reason that I think Zelensky is doing this is probably for his own self-preservation. He's probably sitting around saying, if I don't gin up enough fear in the collective West and get people really scared, then there's no chance of NATO getting involved in this conflict. So maybe I can gin up enough fear, get enough people scared, that public opinion will actually be in favor of NATO getting involved in Ukraine. And that's the only way that I could possibly bring this conflict to some sort of standstill, or maybe possibly win it. That's probably what he's thinking. Otherwise, he's probably saying to himself, I'm cooked. I am cooked. And you can see that Elensky started to panic a lot. With each passing day, he's panicking more and more. You can see it. He is flipping out. And I'm sure that this isn't helping him either. It's probably not helping his mood either. But that's why he's doing it. He probably feels that the only way I can survive this and survive what's coming, because the Russians are cranking things up, he's saying the only way I can get out of this thing alive is if I can gin up enough fear to get public support for a NATO intervention. Anyway, that's the video, guys. The Duran.locals.com. The Duran is on Rockfin. Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. And that is it. That's the video. Take care.